What's up, everybody? Loud Trouble here, and today we're going to talk about gain staging, what it is, why it's important, and I'm going to show you how to do it properly with the only devices you need to keep your levels in the sweet spot in Ableton Live. Let's get into it. So, there's no shortage of videos on the topic, but to put it simply, gain staging is just the act of being mindful of your volume levels throughout your entire signal chain. Why that's important comes down to two things. One being human perception. Our ears tend to confuse louder for better and quieter for worse. So you want to make sure your peak signal levels coming out of any processing is about the same as the levels going in. That way, you won't confuse your ears and you'll make better mix decisions. The second reason is that most plugins, especially plugins modeled after analog gear, expect the incoming signal at a certain sweet spot, and that's around -8 to -6 dB. This is where you're going to get the most out of your plugins, and what dictates our target sweet spot. And that's why I built the only devices you need to keep your levels in the sweet spot in Ableton Live, now available at songlab.io. There's Sweet Spot, a precision gain staging utility, Sweet Spot Master for keeping your final mix level in the sweet spot, and Waveform, the standalone waveform viewer from Sweet Spot Master, complete with frequency energy analyzer and useful musical timings based on your project's BPM. All these devices are included free in the studio plan. Another way you can look at it is you can get all of these devices for just €8 or $9 and a free month of Songlab. Either way, it's a pretty good deal. And these are not subscription based, so once you've downloaded the devices and added them to your user library, they work offline and are yours to keep forever. So I'm going to cook up a beat in Ableton Live and walk you through how to gain stage using these devices. Alright, so here I am in Ableton Live, and as you can see I've already added the devices to my Ableton template. So I'm going to go ahead and click the little Songlab icon, and this will take us directly to the lab. So now I can just hit the spacebar and generate a song idea and some chords to get started with. Okay, so I've got a song idea and some chords that I like to get started with. I'm gonna resize my windows here and turn Songlab into a little sidekick. And I'm going to get started by exporting this verse MIDI here and just dragging it right into Ableton Live. And I'm going to grab the chorus MIDI as well. Sometimes you need to resize your Chrome window to get access to your downloads. There we go. And let's pick an instrument for this track. Okay, so I'm going to rename this to organ, and I'm actually going to bring the octave of this MIDI data up, and I'm going to do the same thing with the B section here, Command A and Shift up, and I'm going to go ahead and gain stage this signal. The first thing we want to do is keep an eye on our incoming signal and make sure that it is in the sweet spot here. So gotta turn that down a little bit. Clicking on the value or the meter will reset the meter. Okay, so I think that's fine. Of course, if you add any processing, you will want to gain stage again here. Make sure that you're not adding or removing any volume. Holding shift and dragging after you click will change the trim by 0.1 increments. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this track. But let's delete this MIDI. And let's get maybe the closed and high with a little bit of strum here from Songlab, and we're going to drag it right into Ableton here. And I'll get the chorus MIDI. And let's pick an instrument for this. Okay, let's pick a different color for these. Maybe we'll make this one pale yellow, and we'll change the color of the drums. And we're going to call this ARP. And I think I'm going to also raise the octave of this MIDI data. And then let's go ahead and gain stage these peaks. Okay, assign track color eclipse. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this audio track for now. We don't need that. And let's add some drums. So a normal thing you might want to do on the drums is saturate them. So let's go ahead and grab a saturator from Ableton and drop it on our drums here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the clip. We're going to do a hard clip. And I'm going to hold Alt while I drag an instance of Sweet Spot after that processing. And I'm going to double click the trim to reset it. And this saturator is going to clip the signal at 0 dB. When I drive it. So we're actually going to set the trim on Sweet Spot to -6. And as I drive the signal here with the saturator, once the peak is pinning at -6, we know that it's clipping. Adding an instance of waveform from Songlab before the processing, and you can hold Alt and drag it to put another instance after the processing. We can see in real time what the saturator is doing to the transients of our signal. So over here we've got these kicks to the left, and of course this snare right here. And you can see going into the signal, everything's getting leveled out and all these transients are just getting chopped off right here. And it's adding quite a bit of volume. So using waveform can give you a really good insight into how your signal is being affected by your processing. Let's play some bass. So I've gain staged my bass, and I'm going to add a little bit of compression. So of course I'm going to add an instance of Sweet Spot after that, and double click the trim. And these little plugin windows are kind of wasted space, so I usually just double click that to minimize it. And let's go ahead and compress this bass here. Okay, so I'm going to set our tempo to our tempo from Songlab here. So it's 62. And our key is already in C# major. And you want to be making sure you're playing back the loudest peaks when you are gain staging. Alright, so I'm going to drive the bass a little bit with some Gorilla Drive. Same thing as before, I'm going to hold Alt and put a copy of Sweet Spot after that, double click the trim, and double click the plugin here to minimize it. And let's hear it with some drive. So I do want to wreck this bass a little bit more. I'm going to add some double lock from Sound Toys. And again, put a copy of Sweet Spot after that. Double click, and dial this in. Just like we did with the drums, we're actually going to clip this bass, but we're going to use Zebra Clipper from Safari Audio. And same thing as before, I'm going to hold Alt and put a copy of Sweet Spot after that, double click the trim and the plugin here, and let's go ahead and dial this in. And since this clips at 0 dB, I'm actually going to change this trim to -6, and I'm going to drive it until I start seeing the peak indicator here pinning at -6. So I've got a Valhalla vintage verb here. I'm going to put a copy of Sweet Spot after that and double click it. So I'm going to reach for a waveform from Songlab, and I'm actually going to click on the musical timings tab so I can dial in these reverb settings and make them a little bit more musical. So here the pre-delay by default is 20 milliseconds. Here you can see that 1/16 is 242 milliseconds. So let's set this to 24.2. And for the decay, that's 4 seconds, pretty long. Let's shorten it up. Right here, one entire bar is 3.8 seconds. So let's set this to 3.87 seconds. And let's see what that sounds like. Alright, now that we've got quite a few sounds in our composition, let's go ahead and take a look at our buses. You do want to gain stage all of your buses as well. So on our main bus here, you can see that we've been coming in quite loud. Let's go ahead and gain stage this. Okay, so eventually, at the end of your mix, you will reach your final limiter, and that is where we reach for a Sweet Spot Master by Songlab.io. So as you can see, we've been sitting a little hot for streaming, and we're not really getting any limiting off of our limiter anyway right now. But there is a dim here. When this is on, it's going to dim by 6 decibels, so we don't blow out our ears while we're mixing. So here it is with the dim on and off. So I'm going to put it back on so I'm not blowing out your ears. There's also a mono check here, so you can check your mix in mono. Just make sure to turn these off before you export your song. And as you can see, there's also an integrated waveform viewer into the Sweet Spot Master. You can click here to hide that if you want a more compact integrated LUFS meter. But I'm going to go ahead and open it and go to the musical timings because I want to dial in this limiter here. By default, the release is at 100 milliseconds. But if we look at our musical timings here, 1/64th is 60.5 milliseconds. So let's shorten this release. Let's give it a faster release. 60.5. And turn the auto off there. For now, I can just drive my limiter by a couple dB, and that's going to put us nicely in this range here. Alright, let's tighten everything up a little bit and add some vocal chops. So that's about all there is to it. Gain staging really is just making sure you're paying attention to your volume levels after adding any kind of processing. And Sweet Spot makes it easy to do that. These devices use minimal processing and add 0 latency, so you can just put them everywhere after every single plugin and have a constant visual overview of where your signal levels are. I'm going to continue doing some more production, arrangement, and mixing on this track, and I will post the final cookup at the end of this video. Don't forget to start your next song at songlab.io. Sign up for the studio plan to get access to all of these great devices, and while you're there, get yourself something in the shop. Alright, I'll see you next time.